All right, we are back here for our Bengals mailbag. Couple of super chats coming in. Also, some of our live comments coming in from our NFL trade deadline coverage here. Sky Warrior coming in with a $10 super chat saying, how can the Bengals win the Super Bowl next year? I know how. Draft Ohio State's entire defense. That's how you fix the defense. But seriously, how do you win the Super Bowl next year? I just personally don't think that there is a way that you could win the Super Bowl next year. I think you got so many issues on this Bengals team right now, and you didn't do anything at the NFL trade deadline. Sure, you traded Logan Wilson for a seventh-round pick. That's not going to help you at all. You didn't help this current team, and you did not help the future team. You need a tackle. Orlando Brown is going to be a free agent after the season. A couple of your offensive guards are also going to be a free agent after the season. You probably need some DT help. You need some edge rusher help. Right now, they're just banking on guys to be able to develop and be better. Zac Taylor the other day said that, he's glad that he wasn't canned after the 2020 season because after that, they were in the same spot. They were able to develop some of those young linebackers and, make a run to the Super Bowl there. But I personally just do not see it for this Bengals team right now. I think it's going to be a couple-year thing. But you got to be able to actually rebuild right. This Bengals team, this Bengals front office, especially in the ownership, doesn't seem like they really know how to do that. Ethan coming in with a $2 super chat saying, how about fire the defensive coordinators? You fired Lou Anarumo last year, and obviously that didn't make much of a difference. Personally, I think it's more of a talent issue out there on the football field. It's an execution issue as well. At some point, the players have to be held accountable as well. You can call whatever you want if you're the defensive coordinator. And if the players don't go out there and they're not actually able to make plays on the football field. Remember a couple weeks ago, they called a blitz, Jordan Battle coming off the edge, and it was against the Jets. And he just checks up right before he gets to the quarterback. And they end up throwing a touchdown pass on that one too. So, I know a lot of people are going to be mad about, the defensive situation. A lot of people want Al Golden to be fired, but you just fired your defensive coordinator, and it hasn't gotten any better now. It was bad last year. It's bad this year. It doesn't really matter who's running things right now. I think it is more of a talent issue right now for the Cincinnati defense. JD also coming in here with a $2 super chat saying, if the Buffalo Bills fire Sean McDermott, could the Bengals hire him? Well, first, you would have to actually fire Zac Taylor. That would be the first step there. And I just don't see a world where the Bengals move on from Zac Taylor. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe in the next couple of days. It's the bye week right now. Usually teams fire their head coach during the bye week. But I just do not see a world right now where the Bengals do actually end up firing Zac Taylor. And I don't even know if Sean McDermott would be an upgrade as your head coach. I think a lot of the success coming right now for this Buffalo offense has to do a lot with Joe Brady. And so maybe Joe Brady is a guy that I would go after. I know a guy that we talked about a lot here on the channel is John Gruden as well. I think there's other options that you could go with instead of Sean McDermott. TW coming in with a $5 super chat saying, I love Joe Burrow, but I think it's time we trade Burrow. He is a cap space liability, especially being hurt. It is time to rebuild. We could get a lot for Joe Burrow. Well, the trade deadline at this point now has come and gone, and I just don't really see that happening, especially with the injury with Joe Burrow right now. I see what you mean. It would piss a lot of people off if the Bengals end up doing that. You could get a lot for Joe Burrow, and he is taking up a lot in cap space right now, but I don't think that's the move. Maybe if you were to trade, somebody else, I think T. Higgins is probably the most realistic person that you could have traded on the offensive side of the football here. I see what you're saying, but if the Bengals ended up doing that, it would definitely piss a lot of people off. So grade the Bengals at the NFL trade deadline. They did make two trades. They traded a 5th, 6th-round pick swap for Joe Flacco, and then they also picked up a 7th-round pick from the Dallas Cowboys for Logan Wilson. Personally, I'm giving it a C. The Logan Wilson trade really doesn't do anything for you. Joe Flacco trade does help out your offense, especially, upgrading from Jake Browning right now. But let me know what you guys think. Grade the Bengals at the NFL trade deadline. A, B, C, D, or F down at the pinned comment of today's video. All right, Dark Fire coming in with a $5 super chat saying we need a coach that attacks the players because what I've seen is the defense does not have accountability and we need accountability. I totally agree with you on that. It just makes me so mad. I get so annoyed hearing Zac Taylor up there during the press conferences saying the same exact thing week after week after week. We just need a play. We need somebody to step up. It's the same thing. He says the same thing every single week. At the end of the day, you just need people to be able to make tackles. You need somebody to actually come up and, play with some leverage on defense. You need to, have some better angles. A couple of weeks ago, Jordan Battle, I hate, continuously picking on Jordan Battle because it's not just him. It's everybody on this team. They do not know how to play with leverage. They have terrible angles. And, there's a reason why you are leading the league right now by far in missing tackles right now. So I think accountability is definitely up there. And, like I said, it definitely irritated me the other day that Zac Taylor, came down on Chase Brown from what he said after that loss, the other day. I think somebody's got to be mad about it. And I'm glad somebody did say something about it, because at the end of the day, it can't just be team meetings because team meetings just can get you so far. It doesn't seem like really team meetings are doing anything for you right now. It doesn't matter what you say. The results have to come on the field. And, right now it's just not happening for the Bengals. All right, we'll come back here in just a second to some more mailbag questions. But first, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. The hard-hitting football action is even better with Prize Picks. The weather might be changing right now, but the feeling of being right never gets old. So keep the season rolling on Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Prize Picks is the only app, and I love this, by the way, that offers stacks, meaning that you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. You want more than on Josh Allen passing yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Now you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on Prize Picks. All right, since the Bengals are off this week, going with a little Ohio State versus Purdue Prize Picks lineup for this one. Bo Jackson, more than rushing plus receiving yards for him at 84.5. I love when Prize Picks do that. You just add those two stat projections together to get the final one there. Jeremiah Smith, more than rushing plus receiving touchdowns, so just an anytime touchdown there for Jeremiah Smith, and more than a half interception for Purdue quarterback Ryan Brown. I think his touchdown to interception ratio this year is like 9-7, something like that, so not very good for him. So it seems like Ohio State, a very good shot to get an interception this weekend. Great thing about Prize Picks, by the way, they also offer a lot of flexibility. How you play is up to you. Choose the flex play where you get paid even if one of your picks misses. But if you want the biggest payout, by the way, which, I do also love using this as well, go for the power play. No matter how you play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. So download the Prize Picks app today and use promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That link's going to be down in the comment section and the description of today's video. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. All right, Ethan coming in using his hashtag Bengals here saying, why do you think Al Golden changed his play calling, blitz, and such when, he came to Ohio? I guess he's talking about from Notre Dame there. I really have no idea. I genuinely have no idea. I think some of it probably has to do with the talent that the Bengals have out there on defense, but the blitz rate is really low compared to what he was doing at Notre Dame. And, I've said this before and I'll say it again, you could call all the blitzes in the world, but unless you execute, it just really doesn't matter there. But I really don't know why Al Golden has changed his play calling philosophy. Maybe Zac Taylor has a little bit of influence on that as well, obviously being the head coach there. But, I don't necessarily think it's all Al Golden's fault. I think a lot of it does fall on the, players that you have out there on defense as well. All right, Frothy, Sir Frothy, I think is how you pronounce that there, saying, in your opinion, what year do you think the inconsistency started to repeat itself with this team? After the Super Bowl. After that Super Bowl team, your defense has got worse and worse and worse every single year after that. You can't develop players. You can't really, hit on those top 100 draft picks. It's just, it seems to me like after the Super Bowl is kind of been there. You've had your September woes, as well, that this year you thought you were going to be able to do better at, but then Joe Burrow gets hurt and you end up, I think, went 2-2 here in the month of September, and it just continues to repeat itself. So I'm going to say after that 2021 season. B. Henry coming in saying, what are your top 3 coaching candidates to replace a 40-31 record with Joe Burrow and a 4-30-1 record without him? Zac Taylor's record, excluding the playoffs, 40-30, not that great with Burrow either. My number one, let me see. We did our coaching replacements about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe it was. So I just want to pull up that because I had a full list of Zac Taylor replacements for that. Number one for me is Joe Brady. I think what there's the connection there with, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase back at LSU. So he would be my number one. I think he's done a really good job at the Buffalo Bills as well. I think John Gruden's one that you definitely have to consider. I think he brings that accountability factor that a lot of Bengals fans want right now. I think he could whip the boys into shape. Whether or not, he would be able to work with the Bengals front office, I think that could be a question mark a little bit there. Robert Saleh is out there. He's a really good defensive coordinator, not the best head coach out there. Jesse Minter is another guy that people have talked about. I think Brian Flores actually would probably be my number 3rd pick there. So, it would be Joe Brady, Brian Flores, and then probably John Gruden would be my top 3 coaching candidates. Gray Fox coming in with another question here saying, game or visit the in-laws better Sunday? Oh, man, it's probably the game. Probably the game. I just, we just went through a phase of, the fiance always wanting to go to the pumpkin patch and stuff like that. And every single weekend, I've chosen to, go with the football games here. So in my opinion, I would say, watch a Bengals game or go to the Bengals game at the end of the day. So that's what I would end up picking there on Sundays. Jackson coming in saying, I spent 3 hours waiting for nothing, not a single trade. Well, you did have the one at 7:30 a.m. this morning when we were on our way to work. Logan Wilson traded for a 7th-round pick. It's very disappointing, and I totally understand everybody's frustration. I'm very frustrated on that as well. So, I totally understand the frustration there.